Our next speaker is Cliff Hall, who will be talking about the Black Regiment.
I brought notes. I wasn't sure whether it was going to have a teleprompter for me. And so I just brought some notes. A lot of people ask, what's the Black Regiment? Or other name for it is the Black Robe Regiment. First of all, they were a group of pastors, actually all of the pastors from such churches as the Presbyterians, the Congregationalists, Episcopalians, German Reformed, Lutheran, Baptist. Can't even list all of them. But they all came to this country looking for religious freedom, looking for a place that they could build a country on what the Bible said was right. They weren't a military regiment. They never drilled together. Many of them didn't even know each other. Some of them were young, some were old, some were grumpy, and some were really nice. But they were all pastors. They were all these little one-room churches. They went up and down the 13 colonies and preached for what they thought was right. And they didn't pick out subjects to preach on like I do. They looked at the news and that's what they preached on. They actually preached on the 1775 earthquake in New England. If they had a disaster, that's what they preached on. If somebody was hung in town, that's what they preached on. If things was going wrong in politics, that's what they preached on. They were a heroic group of men. Everything that they did affected this country. The Declaration of Independence, if you look at the things that's in that, it's really just a group of sermon topics from the old preachers of the old churches. Where'd they get their name? They got their name from the British. The British nicknamed them the Black Robe Regiment because they wore the black robes, because they were such a thorn in the British side. These black robe pastors, they put God first, their country second, and King George a distant third. They weren't a military unit, no, but they won many victories. Some of the pastors went into the military. Some of them signed the Declaration of Independence. Reverend John Muhlenberg, he left his pulpit and joined the Revolutionary War. Reverend John Witherspoon signed the Declaration of Independence. And the more famous of all of them was Reverend James Caldwell. The British called him the high priest of the rebellion. He became a chaplain in the Revolutionary War, and he was passing out Bibles and sharing the Word of God with the troops right on the front line, right in the heart of the battle. I'd like to quote some things that revivalist Charles G. Finney. He was a pretty famous fellow back in the 19th century. This is how he felt about the Black Robe Regiment. He said, if there's a decay of conscience, the pulpit is responsible for it. If the press lacks moral discernment, the pulpit is responsible for it. If the church is degenerate and worldly, the pulpit is responsible for it. If Satan rules in our halls of legislation, the pulpit is responsible for it. If our politics become so corrupt that the very foundations of our government are ready to fall away, the pulpit is responsible for it. And I think everybody can see what the churches are doing and how our country did when the Black Robe Regiment instilled the Christian principles in our Constitution. Quoting from a Fox News report, the report was, "Does the Bible really matter?" in 2011. I was pretty surprised to see Fox News put that on the website, because it called attention back to the Black Regiment. The quote says, "The Bible is the secret of America's freedom. Forget the Bible, and America will go the way of the first Protestant nation, Nazi Germany." The British recognized these Christian principles. They put prices on the heads of the black robe pastors. Today, those black robes have faded to yellow. The pastors don't stand up and speak out for the country. The pastors don't instill the Christian principles in our Constitution. Why? They're afraid that they'll lose their 501(c) status that President Johnson, when he was a senator, got snuck through on the churches. Two men of God, Chuck Baldwin, David Barton, have made a great contribution to the education and the promotion of the Black Regiment. I'm proud to say that I'm one of the 11 that's listed in Virginia as a Black Regiment pastor, a pastor that's not afraid to stand in the pulpit and say what's right with the country. Thank you, and may this nation again declare, "In God we trust."